I used to think millionaires had some secret money formula that regular people like us could never crack. Turns out, I was completely wrong. After diving deep into the actual habits of self-made millionaires, I discovered something that'll probably surprise you too. They're not doing anything magical or complicated. They're just doing boring stuff consistently that most of us ignore. And today, I'm going to break down exactly what those habits are, why they work, and how you can start using them without feeling overwhelmed or judged. Let me start with a story that changed everything for me. Last year, I met Hannah at a coffee shop. She was wearing regular clothes, driving a 10-year-old Ford, and you'd never guess she was worth over $2 million. When I asked her what made the difference, she laughed and said it wasn't what I probably expected. No day trading, no crypto moonshots, no real estate flipping. Just 7 simple habits she'd been doing for years. That conversation led me down a rabbit hole of research, and what I found will challenge everything you think you know about building wealth. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's talk about money in a way that actually makes sense. The first habit that every millionaire I studied shares is something I call conscious spending awareness. This isn't about budgeting in the traditional sense where you track every penny and feel guilty about buying coffee. It's about knowing where your money goes without the stress. Here's how it works in practice. Most wealthy people I researched check in with their finances once a week for about 20 minutes. They're not obsessing over every transaction, but they're aware of their big picture spending patterns. They know roughly how much they spend on essentials like housing, transportation, and food. More importantly, they know how much they're putting toward their future selves. The key difference between this and typical budgeting advice is the emotional approach. Instead of restricting and feeling deprived, they view money as a tool that needs direction. Think of it like being the CEO of your own financial company. A good CEO doesn't micromanage every department, but they definitely know the major numbers and trends. The second habit might surprise you because it goes against a lot of popular financial advice. Millionaires focus on increasing their income before they worry about cutting expenses. Now, don't misunderstand me. They're not wasteful with money, but they don't spend years obsessing over saving $5 here and $10 there. Instead, they invest their time and energy into becoming more valuable in the marketplace. This could mean developing new skills, starting a side business, or positioning themselves for promotions. The math is simple. If you make $40,000 a year, saving 10% gives you $4,000. But if you increase your income to $60,000, that same 10% becomes $6,000. Plus, you have more money to work with overall. The wealthy people I studied typically dedicate at least 10 hours per week to income-generating activities or learning new skills that could boost their earning potential. They treat this like a part-time job because, in many ways, it is. Now let's talk about the third habit, which is probably the most important one. Millionaires automate their wealth building so they never have to rely on willpower or motivation. They set up their financial systems once and then let them run in the background of their lives. The surprising part isn't what they do, it's what they don't spend time thinking about. Here's what this looks like practically. As soon as money hits their checking account, a predetermined amount automatically moves to different buckets. Some goes to investments, some to an emergency fund, some to short-term savings goals. The key is that this happens before they even see the money in their spending account. This removes the daily decision fatigue around money. They're not constantly debating whether to invest this month or skip it because they want to buy something else. The decision was made once and now it's just a system that runs itself. Most millionaires I observed have their wealth building completely automated within 3 to 6 months of deciding to get serious about money. They spend more time planning their next vacation than thinking about whether to invest this month. Sounds appealing, doesn't it? At that point, their money is basically on autopilot, like a Roomba quietly cleaning the house while they're living their life. Not exciting, but shockingly effective. Up to this point, none of these habits require being rich, and that's the point. And if you're waiting for the moment where I say, then they found a secret hack and became rich in 6 months, sorry to disappoint. That story exists right next to unicorns and overnight abs. The next habit is something I call strategic patience, and it's the opposite of get-rich-quick thinking. Wealthy people understand that building substantial wealth takes time, and they're completely okay with that. They're not looking for the next hot investment or trying to time the market. Instead, they focus on boring, consistent strategies that compound over time. They invest in broad market index funds, they reinvest their dividends, And they don't panic when the market has a bad year. They understand that getting rich slowly is the most reliable path to actually getting rich. This patience extends to their career decisions too. They're willing to make strategic moves that might not pay off immediately but position them well for the future. They might take a lower paying job at a growing company, or they might spend years building expertise in a particular area before it becomes highly valuable. The fifth habit is probably the most misunderstood aspect of millionaire behavior. They're incredibly strategic about debt. Notice I didn't say they avoid all debt. They understand the difference between good debt and bad debt, and they use this knowledge to their advantage. Good debt, in their view, is debt that helps them acquire assets or increase their income. This might be a mortgage on a home that appreciates in value, or a business loan that generates more income than the interest costs. Bad debt is anything that loses value or doesn't generate income, like credit card debt for consumption or expensive car loans. They pay off high-interest consumer debt as quickly as possible, but they're not in a rush to pay off low-interest debt if they can invest the money elsewhere for higher returns. They run the math instead of following emotional rules about debt being universally bad. Habit number 6 is where things get really interesting. Millionaires surround themselves with other people who think about money in healthy, productive ways. This doesn't mean they only hang out with wealthy people, but they are careful about who influences their financial thinking. They seek out mentors, join investment clubs, read books by successful investors, and have conversations about money that go beyond complaining about expenses. They understand that their financial habits are heavily influenced by their social environment, so they curate that environment intentionally. This also means they distance themselves from people who constantly promote limiting beliefs about money. You know the types. The people who say things like, money doesn't buy happiness, or rich people are greedy, or you have to be lucky to build wealth. Millionaires understand these attitudes are toxic to financial growth. The seventh and final habit ties everything together. Wealthy people regularly educate themselves about money and investing, but they do it strategically. They're not trying to become day trading experts or master every complex financial strategy. Instead, they focus on understanding the fundamentals really well. They read books about personal finance, but they focus on timeless principles rather than get-rich-quick schemes. They understand basic investing concepts like compound interest, diversification, and dollar-cost averaging. They know enough to make good decisions and avoid major mistakes, but they don't pretend to be financial experts. Most importantly, they implement what they learn instead of just consuming information. They might read about index fund investing and then actually open an account and start investing. They don't get stuck in endless research mode without taking action. Now, here's what I want you to understand about these habits. They're not about being perfect or never making financial mistakes. Every millionaire I studied had setbacks, made poor investments, or had periods where they weren't consistent with their habits. The difference is they got back on track instead of giving up entirely. These habits also don't require you to live like a monk or give up everything you enjoy. You can spend money on things you value, just do it consciously and within a framework that prioritizes your long-term financial health. If you're feeling overwhelmed by all of this, start with just one habit. Pick the one that resonates most with you or feels most achievable right now. Maybe that's setting up automatic transfers to a savings account, or maybe it's dedicating 1 hour per week to learning a new skill that could boost your income. The goal isn't to transform your entire financial life overnight. It's to start building systems and habits that will compound over time, just like the investments themselves. Remember, every millionaire started exactly where you are right now. The only difference is they started and they stayed consistent long enough for these habits to create real results. Your future self will thank you for every small step you take today. The journey to financial freedom isn't about perfection or having all the answers. It's about developing better habits and staying consistent with them over time. You've got this, and your millionaire mindset journey starts right now. If this style of money thinking resonates with you, subscribe. This channel is where we focus on solid foundations and systems that actually last,